Welcome to Fearless Females, where ambition meets resilience. Meet your guide, Lorie Jones, owner of Fearless Financial Advisors. Join her and remarkable women executives as they uncover the triumphs and transformative moments shaping extraordinary careers. Ready to be fearless? Let the journey begin.
Good morning. I'm so excited that you guys are joining us today, and I'm excited about our guest today. We are talking with Tracey Windsor, and the thing I loved most about my interview with Tracey is she said at one point, this quote, she said, so she was talking about why she changed career opportunities, and she was living in New York at the time. And she said, so I thought that if you learned finance, you could do anything because everybody needs that. And that just made my heart go pitter patter. You guys know me. That was so exciting because I feel like she's right. Like, finance really does underpin everything you do. It kind of is the base for your hopes and dreams, all of the goals that you have in your life, your family having a good, solid upbringing, or you're dealing with just time after time of financial difficulties. And I think if you can get the finance underneath you, if you can understand how money works and how to use it, then you can make real change happen, not just for you and your family and your life. Although Tracey says, I wanted to stay in New York and that wasn't a cheap option. And she's right about that. So not just for you and your time of life or your family, but you can make change for the world, like literally make change for the world. So I'm so excited for us to get to listen to Tracey's story. Let's get started. Good morning, Fearless Females. So today we've got Tracey Windsor with us. She's the CEO of Windsor Edge. And I'm super excited to talk with Tracey. We actually had a podcast. She does a podcast. And so I was on her podcast not too long ago. So I really enjoyed talking with her, and I appreciate you being willing to come and share your story.
Lorie, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, starting a podcast and being the one asking the questions feels a little bit more comfortable. And I have been wanting to see what it's like on the other side. And so I think this will give me a great experience to see what it's like to being asked the questions.
I know. I always kind of hide behind my microphone here, and it's a little different to be on the other side of it. But I'm super excited that we get to hear your story. So I always start out with the question, I'm a reader. I love reading. I love books. Tell me about your favorite.
My favorite book, which has changed drastically throughout my life, especially the past few years, I've been reading way too many self-help and business books. And I'm like, oh gosh, I really need to read more. But I did read a fantastic book. It's called The Weight of Ink. It's a novel by Rachel Kaddish. And what I love about this book is it takes place in two different time periods, and it's showing the parallel of these two women's lives, which of course is great for the Fearless Females podcast. And it's also timely in that it talks through, issues with women having to make sacrifices that men don't have to necessarily make, and about interfaith relationships, which I think now we need a lot more connection with interfaith and intercultural. With all of the geopolitical issues right now, we could definitely use more understanding.
Yeah, I think that's neat. So it goes through two completely separate women's lives, or do they overlap?
It overlaps in the sense that it's kind of a little bit of a mystery unfolding, that the first woman is in the 1600s and is transcribing this text, and the woman in the 2000s is trying to figure out who wrote this.
Oh, that's cool. That sounds really fun. That's a really neat book. I love that idea. And I do not read enough fiction. I too am reading like the self-help and be a better leader and grow into a more important person. And I feel like sometimes that you miss that idea of like just reading for the pure joy of reading. So thank you for that suggestion. I'll put it on my list.
Amazing.
So tell me a little bit about your journey, Tracey. How did you get started? What do you do? And how did you get where you are today? Just talk to me a little bit about that.
I love my journey and I love talking about it, honestly, because I'm really proud. It's something I'm proud of, that I take a lot of risks and I make a lot of changes, and I don't know where I'm going to be in the future. And I like not knowing where I'll necessarily be in the future. So I went to university for dance and moved to New York City after to be a dancer and a choreographer and an artiste, and which I will forever be. But I also let myself follow other types of interests. I was passionate about changing the world, but more so passionate about, why don't I know anything about the world, and how do I become someone who can even make a strategy or think about how to create change. So I just wanted to become more educated and to learn ultimately about the nonprofit world. I ended up working in animal protection nonprofits for a few years. Loved working with data and strategy and high level and working with the leadership. And I found it very empowering to be working on high level, broad projects that were going to impact a lot of people, communities, animals, both working specifically in one nonprofit developing fundraising plans for various campaigns, including lobbying in different governments all around the world, and working with corporations, like huge corporations, to make changes for animals, and just really amazing stuff to make a difference. But I wanted two things: to stay in New York City and to continue growing and creating opportunities. So those two things led me to really want to go towards finance. So I thought that if you learn finance, you can do anything, because everybody needs that. And also, I want to be able to afford New York City, and nonprofit was not doing it. So those are the two paths that led me there. The more I learned about business, data management, analysis, the more I loved it. So I was happy to love it. And now I am coming out of that wonderful transition that started in COVID, going back to graduate school, starting to work in private equity as an analyst. And then now ultimately I am, even though I started over again practically in a whole new field, I have a lot of experience under my belt, and, kind of in my mid-career, and have had so many wonderful ideas about starting something on my own. And so that's what I've spent the last year doing. And I'm having a blast, and really happy to be working remotely as well.
That's funny. I love the idea but you didn't just start in finance. Like, you started in private equity. That's huge. That's like a really nuanced. So you went back for your master's? Is that what you said?
I did. I went to the New School for Social Research in New York City. I was very fascinated by macroeconomics. And so I wanted to go to a program where I would have a lot of interesting historical and social perspectives and a lot of theory. And that was really something that the New School focuses on.
That's cool. And what does Windsor Edge do? Like, are you private equity, or what?
We are not. We are the private equity that smaller businesses that are never going to get to that, or at least not for a long time, that have access to that kind of insight of strategy and of growth, and to make it available in the sense that I'm aligned with the companies that we work with. So generally they're in a space of growth, creating revenue, automating, cutting costs. We align our revenue with their revenue and help them grow. And it's a pretty simple relationship, and we focus on AI implementation, tech stacks, and giving companies the competitive advantage with all the new platforms and functionality before everybody else is doing it.
That's cool. That's really neat. So you're helping the little guy grow.
Helping the little guy. I
I
hope
love
to
it.
help some bigger guys, but we're
Mhm.
focusing more on the employees around 0 to 50 right now.
Oh, that's really cool. So, I want to know, like,
0
how
to
did you
50? Who's 0 to 50? 1 to 50.
1 to 50? Got it. Got it. Did you ever work as a dancer in New York?
Yes, I still do.
Oh,
I,
really?
yeah. So I was a fitness trainer while I was dancing so that I could have all the flexibility. Loved that life running around. I just did project to project. I danced in some dance companies. I traveled. I did stage productions, video productions, choreographed some. Others I just was a dancer, worked with a few artists. Nothing Broadway or Beyonce, but some really amazing opportunities. And I had a blast. Now I choreograph on the side. Like it's my hobby. I mean, it's
Mhm.
another thing about my journey. Like I don't like to put my life into the narrative that makes sense to everybody around me.
Mhm.
So when, I didn't think about ending my dance career and starting something else. I think about by staying healthy, working out, taking dance classes, as my hobby.
Mhm.
And then sometimes on the weekends or nights, working with different artists and coming up with new material. I can be an artist and be in finance. So, in
I love
business.
that. Yeah, I love that. I think that's neat. And I think that there's something to be said for having that creative piece. I think finance gets a bad rap as like numbers and spreadsheets. And I personally love numbers and spreadsheets, but I also have a lot of creativity. And I think that you can integrate, and you need both halves of that. It makes you better at your job to have that creative piece and to have that outlet to dance and do that creative piece. So I think that's kind of cool that you managed to keep that along with, going into finance. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be like a one-way street. So I like that. What's the best investment that you've made in yourself, Tracey? Is there something that you can look back on and be like, oh my goodness, I am so glad I did that?
I guess it's just this career transition. I'm glad I quit a job I loved because I knew that it was kind of a timing thing for me. I do think while we can make changes all throughout our life, I'm always looking at what can I do now that may be a little bit more challenging later, and that gets me to take action quicker.
Mhm.
So leaving my job during COVID and just bringing more uncertainty to an already uncertain time by exploring what it would look like to switch careers. And I loved grad school. I really did. And I did think it really helped me network. And yeah, I'm really glad it was a tough road. You go from being an expert in certain things to now being a beginner or to be seen in a certain way, and to your peers who've been doing this forever. And even in grad school, everybody was already so skilled in finance and in economics, and already had their path. And I was just starting to figure that out when I went to grad school. So it was just such a fast forward experience to try to say, okay, what's going to happen next? Because you have to think about that because you're only there for 2 years.
Mhm. What drew you to finance? Like, I'm always curious. I know what I love about it. Most people look at finance and they're like, not interested. Thanks so much. But sounds like torture is another thing that I've heard. And so what was exciting about it for you?
I think that I don't know if this is the right word, but having power over my life, being in a field where I would have a lot of agency in what I'm doing, and also a lot of influence in any organizations or any types of projects I was working in. Everyone needs that. And with such a vast, which I had said before, every organization, needs solid finance and needs to understand where they are and how to get to where they want to go. And I thought that was a very powerful position to be in.
Mm-hmm. To help get them between one place and the
To
other.
help, to be somebody who knows how to do that. I thought that was really cool. And I've had a fun time doing that, especially with smaller businesses. I helped my friend start fundraising, and actually we raised $1 million for her startup in New York City. And it was amazing creating the business plan, taking the investor meetings, and seeing how strategy is, and having a strategy to be able to talk about it and to have it be based in logic and in research is how you convince people to do things, and that's also a great power.
Mm-hmm. What is the worst advice someone gave you? Did somebody ever give you some really bad advice, and did you take it? Did you not take it? Did you learn from it?
Yeah, I mean, my career transition seems to be the answer to everything. I mean, a lot of people didn't get it, and that was tough. I got a lot of resistance, a lot of confusion. I actually had a mock interview in graduate school, and the woman who was interviewing me was just like, I just don't get your story. It's really hard to, she almost couldn't do the interview because it was just so ridiculous that, that I'd gone to school for dance, and then, that made this kind of shift. And I also think that I got some pushback from people who went traditional routes, and I don't think they liked seeing somebody do it another way. Mm-hmm. And I think that the advice was almost more of a stay in your lane kind of thought. Mm-hmm. I did not take that advice, obviously, but I think I've gotten a lot of career advice in general to really stay where I am, or not to make a move, or see where this goes. And I'm glad I went, and whenever I got that kind of advice, I just sought more advice until I found the advice I liked.
That was kind of resonating with you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What about a situation through your journey that maybe you look back on and you're like, oh gosh, I wish I knew then what I know now, because I totally would have handled that differently. Is there something you can think of that might be that sort of a situation?
In general, it's this kind of fear of time that gets me, time going by or haven't gone by. I'm really thinking back to when I was in my 20s and was dancing, and let confidence and other people's standards define who I was and what I was capable of. Mm-hmm. And having regret of not pushing forward sometimes has led me to be in a place where regret is how I make decisions. I look at a decision and say, will I regret not doing this? Sometimes you don't get to know what you will regret in the future, but sometimes you kind of do. You kind of do get some of those opportunities, and you're like, I will regret this later. So yeah, just letting the fear of it's too late, or I don't have enough time to accomplish something or get where I need, so that you almost don't kind of start the path to get there. Mm-hmm. And I did that in dance because I was in injuries. I really needed to shift. I had a spinal injury actually, and I really needed to strengthen and focus. And it was just a really hard, lonely place being a dancer in New York City. And that kind of set me up to be a little bit more aggressive, and I think thick-skinned, kind of moving into more corporate organizations like the nonprofits, and then into finance. And I guess, toughening your skin from past regret or inaction I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, it is. Sometimes you do need to kind of go through those experiences to really understand. I like the idea of, am I going to regret this later? Is this a decision I'll regret not making, or is this something I'll regret not doing? So maybe projecting yourself into your future. I love that, because it does go with finance quite a bit, a lot of the things that I kind of tell my clients are like, future you will be so grateful you did this. And so I think that kind of taking that and putting it in your life and asking what future you is going to think about the decision that you're making. I think that's really powerful and a really interesting way to kind of look at what you're doing and what you're making and the decisions you're kind of trying to make for what future you will think about that.
Yeah, I love that as well. What you tell your clients and thinking more about the future you. It's a more kind of tactile image to think about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Visioning yourself.
If you could go back in time and talk to yourself at like 20, 21, somewhere near the beginning of your journey, what would you tell you?
I would tell me I have so much time. I have so much time. Do not worry about that. You just have forever. So just go for stuff and don't worry about how long it's going to take you to get somewhere, because just get started. The other thing is to work remotely immediately. Like find a way to, whatever you're doing for money, there's so many opportunities in a remote world where you can make, especially in New York City. Like this might be a New York City thing where getting anywhere is a very long time, right? You don't just you're not in a suburb. You don't just hop to your car. That's 10 minutes and you're friend. I think that's a very different. Everywhere you go in New York City, it's going to take 45 minutes. So if you go 45 minutes here and there, and you have to deal with thousands of people every time you go somewhere, just for me personally, it's a lot of intensity during my day. So I would tell myself to get something really cool to do remotely, something you can upskill in and keep, being able to improve on, so that you can dance and learn and all that stuff and not be traveling hours and hours every day around the city.
Yeah, I guess that's something that, I've seen it as I went to a more remote position where I'm like, gosh, you cut an hour commute or a half an hour commute off of both sides. Like I'm way more productive, but it's something that you don't really think about in a practical terms. But if you could put 45 minutes on each side of your day, plus any lunch meetings or anything like that you're doing.
And schlepping all your stuff. Mm-hmm. For anybody who doesn't know, schlepping is carrying in Yiddish. Carrying it all around. Mom would say schlepping the schmata, all your crap. Throughout the city. It's like my life in the summer. So it's a very specific 20-year-old New York City gal who doesn't like to commute kind of advice.
Do you think you would have missed out on that? That's always the kind of the question I have, the balance that I have is that I got a lot from just being in the same place as other people, kind of learning what they had to teach me, sitting in their office and chatting with them. Do you think you would have missed out on that if you had gone fully remote right at the beginning?
Oh my gosh, probably. Great point. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that we're seeing the outcome of people having the young parts of their lives remote, right? Mm-hmm. In their 20s and 30s, and the challenges that they might have more than others in certain social situations and certain parts of work that you learn when you're in person with people. So that definitely could have been the dark side of going remote at 20. But I've met some people going remote at 20.
Mm-hmm. How did they get around it? How did they get that same sort of experience or make room for those same sort of skills? Do you know?
You know what? Now that I think about it, kind of the couple people I really knew back in the day, so that was like over 15 years ago, right? When being 20, they're a little bit, not so outgoing. So I don't know if they really were capable of kind of getting all the advantages of working in person. So gosh, I guess if you're gonna be remote, you better find great community and projects and reasons to be doing complex things with people in person, because it's not just being in person, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's about the challenges at work.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like you can condense all that in-personness, everything that you're going to get from in-person from 8 hours worth of mostly wasted time to like 1 hour worth of really concentrated effort. Yeah, I like that.
I mean,
That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think this question is going to be, and this balance is going to be just continue to evolve and have discussions around and debates around. I think in the coming years, like in the next 10 years, we're going to start seeing hopefully some really cool ideas about how to be very remote. Or, I mean, honestly, what about great transportation? Can't we get better transportation, especially in cities, so that people can get to a meeting, quicker, and have more express trains and have more buses running? Just make all us little guys have a easier time getting around.
Yeah, I was thinking like I'm going to date myself here, but Jetsons, they used to like just get in their little airplane and fly their cars around. Like I always wanted one of those flying cars. I really wish they'd figured that out before now.
In The Fifth Element,
you
remember that movie? They had great flying cars in that movie too. Yeah, it's unfortunate we're not flying yet. I think that's a real loss that we're not flying yet. Very disappointed in technology.
We could get some of those college graduates to get us some flying cars. That would be amazing. What scared you the most when you started out on your journey? Was there anything that scared you then, and does it still scare you now, or did you learn how to
gosh, everything scares me, to be honest. I am always like, what's going to happen? I guess that's the antidote to boredom is not knowing what's happening or being scared. So I guess I put myself in those situations. But yeah, I think going for high achievements, going to achieve something that not a lot of people get to achieve. First that started out in dance. It's a very competitive space in a very competitive city. Into, graduate school is extremely competitive. Who gets opportunities, who doesn't, who's in leadership roles. And then, into finance. It's tough in the job market. It's really hard to be seen and hard to be seen for your uniqueness that aren't, if it's not those awesome things that everybody wants in their resume, if you don't have the name of the school or the employer, it's really hard to be seen, and just, I had a fear that I wasn't going to be able to put myself in front of people, have the opportunity or find the right people to see my value and to see what I could bring to the table. I think because I always knew I could do really cool things, but it was hard to express that, to have the opportunity to show, all those types of things. One of the reasons why I have a podcast is because connecting with people on a level where you can really find value outside of some of those very kind of corporate qualities or names that people look for.
To kind of connect on a deeper level.
Yeah.
Did you face any unique challenges over your journey because you were a woman?
Yes, I did. It's so, it's hard to know. And I think as a woman, I second guess myself and, is this really because I'm a woman, or is it just me? I think I had a lot of those kind of fighting moments with myself. And usually if you're asking yourself that, it's probably not you. Like if you're someone that always blames yourself and is hard on yourself, then, you're always going to err on that side, like me. But I see it when it comes to like business development, networking. I think that there's a lot of opinions about me just from what I'm wearing and what I look like, and those things being connected to being a woman. I think people talk to me a certain way. I think at work, in some ways, people were more sensitive to me, which could be better in private equity. I think it was such a male-dominated space. Right, it is a male-dominated space. And in a small company, when it's kind of men and those in the type of positions that you have in my last job, there were women in the company, but usually in another department. So there was a sensitivity actually, which I think is really great. It was kind of positive for me. They were like, wait, what? It's like having a woman almost like ups the ante of what could go wrong. And this is like from a society, not from that experience, is that I'm just thinking, why, a company might go towards that. But, mostly whenever I felt that throughout my journey that I was being looked at a certain way because I was a woman, I moved so quickly away from that.
Uh-huh.
So if I hint it, I leave that
Mm-hmm.
space. Like in terms of like really feeling, obviously weighing the benefits of being somewhere, going through an experience, but anything where I can find the version where people will lift me up or not, not treat somebody differently. I just always opted for that to try to reduce kind of the impacts of being a woman and trying to be achieving things and become a leader.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. That you just talked a little bit about like, feeling like in a space where maybe you were feeling a certain way, or you had these negative feelings, and you're like, yeah, that helped you to know that this wasn't the space for you. Like they weren't gonna lift and grow in that space. Is that kind of what?
Yeah, absolutely. That feeling also, I think for me, I had like kind of two things not going for me. One was being a woman, and then one was my background. And I think I might have faced resentment for both of them. And right, people have so many resentments to bring to you and to judge you about. So, but yeah, trying to shift somehow or something, right? You can't always have the power to make big changes. And also, there are certain situations, certain jobs that, it's not so smart to move every year in a new job, and weighing that with, hey, what does my resume look like, and how many years should I be here, and all those things that you have to think about and you have to weigh. And I am definitely a proponent of sacrificing certain things. So I definitely don't want to come across as like, yeah, I just keep shape shifting as soon as something doesn't feel right, because that's only half the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. You do have to kind of dig in and make things work and face some of the issues or the problems and work them out. Yeah, that sort of thing. What is the thing, Tracey, that you are most proud of?
Most proud of just sacrificing so much comfort in my life for the future. Really proud for making choices that were less comfortable, that are going to bring knowledge, experience, opportunities to me or to communities I care about later on. And now that I'm proud of that, I also do want to find some comfort and some finer things in life. So while I am proud of it, I'd love a world where I didn't have to sacrifice a lot, but I'm certainly proud that I did, especially to be living in New York City, a big city, and where you get to network with the coolest people. There's cool people everywhere, and there's awful people everywhere. But yeah, there's some really, really talented people in New York City, and wanting to rub elbows with them and have some of the way if they're amazing talkers, to speak with them, so you can start to learn, how to have that rub off on you. If they're a writer, to be able to engage with them on that level, to read their work, to talk about that, right? You just you turn the corner and there's just like authors and actors and, CEOs and just extremely accomplished people in very regular clothes.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of neat. I always have been really excited to learn from other people and to learn from their experiences, obviously. So I really enjoy I've had it phrased like spending time around people that are who you want to be. And you can kind of, some of it rubs off on you, or you just spend time around really talented people. You tend to notice what makes them so talented and try and emulate that. So I like that. That's
absolutely.
Neat.
And I have one more thing I'm very proud of. So being a dancer, I came to a point where it was such second nature to express and experience emotions while dancing, while choreographing, while engaging with other dancers. It was such a great space to communicate, and you have your own language. And it feels, you go to a dance practice rehearsal and you come out of that and you feel like you had some, I had a very, cathartic discussion. It's like, no, you didn't. You danced. And that was the feeling of the music. So you thought of things and then you had, you worked through stuff. So that's really cool. But I was very afraid of writing. Really felt like it was that I could not write. I could not express myself through words generally. But I did think it was very cool writing, how you could really craft your words in such a way that, that you can really make the point you want to make. And that was something that I worked really hard on to become a writer. And so through grad school, I did find opportunities to start to publish, and now have found a really cool, unique niche in my research that I've been publishing. It's in animals in supply chains, global supply chains, using the case study of the fashion industry. And it has been such a great thing to start to be known in, for a certain field. And so I'm really proud to now be able to call myself a writer.
That's cool. That's really neat. And you practiced and practiced, or, just did it. And then you could show up in that way and have that talent. That didn't feel like it came naturally to you, but you had to work at it a little bit. That's cool. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any advice, Tracey, for a young woman who's just starting kind of down this path? I'm not sure I could find a young woman who started down the path of dancer to nonprofit to private equity, but say she's starting out on the path to where you ended up in owning your own business and kind of doing private equity. What advice would you give her?
Oh yeah, big time. It's all about people. So the people who are not serving you, it's tough, but at least find some space, right? And then finding people who are where you want to be or to know about something, just bringing people into your life, bringing mentors into your life, coaches, right? So whether you have mentors who just want to, give back by taking care of younger people in a way that, can help them evolve their career, versus paying for a coach, I don't know, do all of it. Honestly, I think the more that you can get people in your corner and helping you craft your transition and craft your next steps, I think it's the most valuable thing to be focusing on is your people lens.
I like that. And how do you find those people? Like, walk up to them on the street, or how do you find those people?
Sometimes super randomly. Gosh, I think I find them in ways that I don't know I'm going to find them, but also, anywhere from, walking up, like literally meeting somebody in one circumstance. You had no idea that, they also had this knowledge or this career, this network that could help you, right? And it just is kind of a natural thing, to fully researching, a space to get the job. Oh, this is huge. To get the job, to get your first job or your second job or any job when you do not have a traditional background, I hired a career coach, job coach, and worked really hard on every aspect of that job search, and fully committed to that. And as well as just being a woman, learn how to negotiate. Also, all of it in the people lens, but learn how to negotiate. And that was also something I learned with my job coach.
Negotiate salary or
all of the things. All of the things. Yes. I learned it because I wanted to get a better salary than I knew I would be offered. And then in general, I learned that in finance, everything that we're doing is negotiating. The best negotiating happens when you say you're not negotiating, and it's under the veil of, we're just trying to make everybody get what they want in this business deal. And everything is a negotiation. And people who say that are generally very good at negotiating and are negotiating when they say that to you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, in all aspects.
That's so interesting. Where do you find a negotiation coach?
Well, I think for me, it was getting one out of a career coach, right? That's very targeted at specific types of negotiating. But I also found my working in private equity, seeing people in leadership positions engage in some really tough negotiations, just witnessing it, being in the room, being on the phone call, putting yourself in situations where you get to see it, and then potentially behind the scenes can hear the reflection, internally, and be like, oh yeah, that did happen. Mm-hmm. Because I don't think we see negotiation so clearly. Not only when we're doing it, do we say we're doing something else, but I think the tactics, and not in like a sly way, like sneaky, I need to get what I want, but in truly trying to figure out what other people truly want, right? What is the bottom line for the person you're negotiating with? Those things I really did learn on the job, and just seeing people be tough cookies every day and sit in silence for a moment, like letting the silence happen and let the other person sweat a little bit. And I just loved seeing little things like that.
That's interesting. And I think it's interesting too to think about like afterwards, like the wrap up or behind the scenes. It's so interesting to kind of understand what other people are doing and why, and have them help and just explain questions, like just asking questions after things like that, so that you can get better and understand what's going on. So, well, thank you so much, Tracey, for helping us and for just explaining your journey and letting us take a little journey along with you to kind of get your insights. If I have a young woman who wants to reach out to you, how does she do that?
I think LinkedIn is always great. So Tracey, Tracey, Windsor, Windsor. And my email is tracy@windsor-edge.com. Yeah, so find me.
Perfect.
Happy to chat.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Lorie.